Contractor support is a vital and regular part of our day-to-day operations. It is important that government employees understand the nature of the relationships between the government, the contractor, and the contractor's employees. We're all aware of the different rules that apply to Air Force civilians and military personnel. Air Force employees are subject to federal laws and regulations, as well as Air Force and DoD rules. Contractor support employees are governed by a different set of rules. As the employees of a contractor, they're subject to the laws that apply to all individuals, such as bribery, the terms and conditions of their individual contracts with their employer, and the applicable terms and conditions of their employer's contract with the government. The desire to treat the contractor as part of the Air Force team is understandable, but government employees must realize the potential risks they impose on the government and the contractor if they allow special or improper treatment in any number of situations. This training will present common situations you might encounter in your day-to-day operations and provide you the opportunity to select the best course of action. After you make your selection, our analyst will apply the existing rules, regulations, and laws and discuss the various responses. The goal is to give you some practical knowledge that you can apply to similar situations. Enjoy the training.
John, a contractor employee, requests the contracting officer's representative, Lisa, to approve some computer-related training. Let's see what happens.
Excuse me, Lisa. Do you have a moment I could talk to you, please?
Sure, John. Come on in.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some classes that are being offered by the 88th Air Base Wing. They've got an Excel class this Friday from like 12 to 4. And I could really use a refresher because of some of the in-depth stuff I'm having to work right now on the project you've got assigned to me. Would that be okay?
Well, John, I know that your company's contract requires proficiency in Excel. We could probably all use a refresher. Let me check into the terms of the contract and I'll get back to you.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
What is the correct response from the COR? A, the COR should quiz John on his Excel knowledge to determine the need for training. B, the COR should concur, as this is a requirement of the contract, and encourage John to attend the course and bill the government for the time. C, the COR should not concur with this request. It is not the government's role to provide for training of contractor employees.
Well, let's see. It seems reasonable to want well-trained personnel, especially for classes that are readily available at no cost.
It may seem reasonable, but there are several reasons why the contractor should not attend this training. First and foremost, it is the contractor's responsibility and right to provide training for its employees. If the government provided and encouraged additional training, it would interfere with the contract employee's relationship with his or her employer.
But we're not talking about significant training, and this is readily available to all. Wouldn't we want our personnel to gain skills that may benefit the government?
Well, first, your question, wouldn't we want our personnel to gain skills that may benefit the government, infers that contractor personnel are government employees. Remember, they're not government employees, but employees of the company. The training of individual contractor personnel is the responsibility of the company that employs them. Second, for most contracted support contractor personnel are required to possess basic office skills in accordance with the contract. For technical and program support, assigned contractor personnel are generally required to be previously trained in office applications. The government should not provide training for contractor personnel who should already possess the skill in accordance with the contract. Also, this is not unique training. It's readily available from many sources. The contractor should provide this training to its employee. And finally, to provide training to some contractors and not others could create the appearance of favoritism. As we've just discussed, for the most part, general training that is easily accessible outside the government should not be provided to the contractor. However, there are circumstances where certain types of training are not readily available to the contractor.
Do you mean like safety and environmental awareness?
Exactly. Contractors may not have ready access to certain types of training that are specific to particular environment training. Training in this category is generally government specific and includes areas such as safety, providing awareness of the physical environment in which the contractor will be working or training on government-specific applications. The contractor does not normally have access to this type of training from sources outside the government, and the government should provide this type of training to the contractor. If the government plans to provide government-specific training to a contractor, the training requirement must be incorporated into the contract. Let's look at another situation as Ms. Smith, a support contractor, offers to assist with drafting requirements documents for an upcoming acquisition.
Did you see this in the paper the other day?
Yeah, I was just reading it actually.
I can't believe they're upgrading it already.
I know, the C5.
Hey Becky, sorry to interrupt, but I have a few questions about our support contract.
Sure, come on in.
When you have some free time today, I'd like to discuss some of the requirements.
Sure thing, Chris. How about in a few minutes? I know we really need to get together to review the document and then update the new requirement. Since you and I are both new to the program, I think this would be a good opportunity to catch up to speed so we know what's going on.
Okay.
Well, you know, I was working on the current contract and I have a pretty good understanding of the requirements, so I can help you too with any of the initial drafts if you needed help. And that way you wouldn't have to spend so much time researching and tracking changes.
That would be great.
Sounds good.
How should the program manager proceed? A, the program manager should be thankful that she can tap this valued resource and allow Ms. Smith to draft the documents. B, the program manager should politely decline the offer and determine how the requirement documentation can be drafted with organic resources. C, the program manager should immediately cancel the plans for a competition and have Ms. Smith draft a justification for going sole source to her company based on mission requirements.
Well, I'm sure the schedule is critical. So the PM should let Ms. Smith draft the documents, review and approve, and sign if they are acceptable, as long as he is the approving authority. I choose A.
Well, that would be the quickest and likely the easiest way to get that documentation changed.
Quick and easy. I like that.
Unfortunately, it's not acceptable. It's likely that this task is not included in the contract. Therefore, the contractor would be performing out-of-scope work. Further, it's a conflict of interest for the contractor to perform the task at all. The government cannot use requirements documents prepared by a contractor who will, in turn, compete and expect to have a fair competitive selection process. Also, determining government requirements is an inherently governmental function. In other words, only government employees can determine requirements. While the contractor may be the most knowledgeable about the requirements, the government needs to use government resources to complete the requirement documentation.
I guess I would be concerned about the fairness if I were a competing contractor and found out that my competitor wrote the documents.
Exactly. One thing to remember is that perception is nearly as important as actions. Drafting the documents may not give any competitive advantage, but it certainly creates a perception that the incumbent contractor has an advantage. It's always wise to look at how situations can be perceived and then ensure that the course of action is appropriate. Let's look at another situation in which a government employee, Bob, is tasked with creating the schedule for end-of-day security checks.
Hey Bob, as the new security office manager in the office, you need to send up the end-of-the-day yearly checklist. Here's the list I would like you to use.
Well, thanks for the list, Mike. Wow. Looks like we have around 50 people since we added the support contractor personnel. I'll set up a rotation and have it posted by close of business Friday.
Okay, great. I was wondering if you could also exempt the director as well as the deputy. Also, I've noticed a few times from last year's list that some people did more than a week's worth of work. If we could kind of minimize that, and it looks like we have the people to do that this year, that would be great. All right?
Sounds cool.
Cool. Thanks.
Thank you.
How should Bob proceed? A, exempt contractors from end-of-day security check and establish a schedule using the available government resources. B, solicit volunteers for this duty. His solicitation should aggressively target the A and AS contractors to take this responsibility since they do not get paid government holidays and do not travel as much. C, create a schedule using all available personnel, including the contractor, support, so that only 1 week will be required and the director and deputy will not have to check.
Well, everyone has the responsibility for security. I pick C. Bob should create a schedule with everyone in the office, except the director and the deputy. And since everyone has responsibility for security, it should be shared equally among contractors and government employees.
I agree with you. Security is everyone's responsibility. But, it is not the responsibility for contractor personnel to provide security for government employees or other contractor employees. Increasingly, we have more than one contractor supporting a program or office. The employees of the various contractors should not be put into a position of responsibility for the security of another contractor. It interferes with the employer-employee relationship. It also creates an environment where a contractor employee from one company may have potential access to another company's sensitive information as well as government-sensitive information. Contractors are required to secure their work areas and safeguard sensitive material, but each is responsible individually. Bob's rotation list should include only government personnel. If this is a small office where the responsibility must be shared to cover TDY and leave, then the requirements for security checks can be included in the contract as a duty for the contractor. This would be the only exception. Here's another situation. A squadron commander is preparing for his program kickoff commander's call.
Hey, Bill, can you come in here for a second? Thanks.
Good morning, sir.
Morning. Have a seat. I'm trying to lay the groundwork for our commander's call coming up. The folks worked really hard selecting our support contractor, and I want to have a real energetic kickoff to this team.
Well, that's a great idea, sir. What with the stand-up of the new project, we could certainly use an icebreaker. I'll be honest with you, I don't know the names of half the personnel.
Exactly my point. I'm convinced that this thing will only work if we focus on team building to include our one-team concept. I want to lay the foundation for team building for everybody to include our support contractors. What I want to do for the commander's call is lay out our program goals, focus on our strategic vision, open up the floor for some Q&A, and then we can reconvene at the golf course for a 9-hole scramble. Now, when you set the teams, I want them selected at random to give the opportunity for people to mingle with folks that they normally wouldn't mingle with. Now, because this is a commander's call, I want it mandatory for all personnel.
All right, well, I like the idea of random selection of teams, sir. You know, everybody could use an afternoon of fun and team building. I'll go ahead and call the golf course and reserve some times.
Thank you.
Sounds like a good team building activity. What's the appropriate course of action regarding the support contract employees? Should they, A, be permitted to attend the off-site and participate in the golf scramble to ensure that they are perceived as valued members of the team? B, be ranked by USGA handicap and placed on teams based on ability, ensuring the commander gets the best players on his or her team? C, be permitted to attend the off-site for the mission briefing, but only stay for lunch and the golf outing if their employers have approved this non-duty time.
Okay, this is obviously a trick question. The contractor employees should not attend any of this. We just learned that the government doesn't train contractors, so team building surely should not be allowed. There is no correct answer here.
I think you're catching on, but you're getting a little overly conservative. True, the government does not provide formal training, but a commander's call is not considered a formal training activity, rather a mission-related activity. The contractor employees should be on hand to receive the briefing, learn the goals and strategic vision. This will make their tasks more clear relative to the mission. You're 100% correct. Contractor personnel may not participate in the team building exercise as it relates to the commander's call. They can certainly be included in the discussion addressing mission-related activities, and they may charge the time spent attending such activities to their contract. However, contractors may not participate in the golfing aspect of the team building activity unless the employer has authorized the non-duty time and understands that the government cannot be charged for the time spent playing golf.
What if the government includes a requirement for team building and other activities in the contract?
It's not appropriate to include such a provision or requirement for team building when the team building activities include social entertainment, golf, picnics, parties, etc. By law, the government cannot pay contractors to participate in social functions or any other similar entertainment. Also, it is the contractor's responsibility to provide for the care and feeding of its personnel. That includes wellness and team building. For the government to mandate or encourage these types of social activities interferes with the contractor's relationship with its employees. Here's a different situation. Steve, a support contractor, has just discovered that he and his neighbor Brian are being assigned to the same program.
Hello? Oh, hi, hon. Yeah, good. How are you? Good. Yes, I remember to take the recycling to the curb. Oh, by the way, while I was out there, I ran into Brian. Yeah, he was on his way to work. Are you sitting down? Turns out that he's been assigned to work the same program that I work. Yeah, it's like my worlds are colliding. Yeah, no, it's cool. I'm happy about it. You know, it's just, who would have thought after 17 years of being neighbors that, you know, we'd finally work the same program together. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, now I do have one concern though, okay, and that is I know that there are rules that govern government employees and contractor employee interactions. Yeah, and since I'm not a government employee anymore, you know, that could be an issue. Yeah, I was going to buy Brian a whole new set of fishing lures for his birthday, but now I'm not even sure if we can fish together. Yeah, I have got to find out more about those rules. All right, I'll let you go. Tell the kids I said hey. Okay, bye.
How should this situation be addressed? A, Steve should not give the gift under any circumstances and should refrain from any future contact with Brian outside the work environment. B, Steve should anonymously leave the gift on Brian's desk and wait several months to reveal that he was the source. Or C, Steve should give the gift and Brian should accept the gift.
Well, there are strict rules about giving and receiving gifts. Not only contractors and government employees, but between government employees as well. There are also rules regarding fraternization and social activities with contractors. The correct answer has to be A.
The correct answer for most cases will be A, or close to that answer.
Well, that's clearly the best choice. It might actually be a good idea for Steve to consider moving.
Not so fast. The correct answer here is C, give the gift. The general rules do discourage gift giving and extraneous interactions. However, there are exceptions. In this case, the government and contractor employee had a relationship established well before they worked in the same office. So a one-time gift under $20 exchanged as a result of an existing relationship would meet an exception. The main point is that the relationship predates and was not established as a result of working together. There are other exceptions, but it's best to proceed cautiously and consult your base ethics officer before giving or accepting a gift from a contractor. When in doubt, you should refuse any gift until you're sure it may be accepted. Here's another one. Rick, the director of a special program, just received praise from the PEO for the aggressive yet well-planned schedule to field the X-Spider under serious time constraints. He would like to reward his people. Let's listen in.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Yes, our people did an outstanding job. Yes, I'll pass that along. Okay, sir. Thank you for the call. Carol, could you come into my office a moment, please? Come on in. I just got a call from the PEO, and he is congratulating your team on the outstanding job they did in response to that congressional inquiry. Just job well done.
Well, thanks, Rick. We really had a great team working on this project.
Well, you certainly did. And I would like to do some kind of public acknowledgement of that and some awards to show the appreciation for a job well done. What do you think about that?
Well, the team definitely stepped up. They worked some long days. They really pushed hard to meet the deadlines. I was especially impressed with our support contract employee, you know, Fred Black.
Yeah, Fred. I know Fred.
He had some very valuable scheduling inputs. I'm not sure exactly what you had in mind, but I think that time off award would seem appropriate. I mean, the entire team could definitely use the break.
I think that's reasonable. I'll tell you what, let's get these awards written up, and I would like at the next director's call to be able to present those. Don't forget to write yourself up now. You guys did an outstanding job.
Thank you.
This team went above and beyond. What's the appropriate course of action regarding the contract support employee? Should the PM, A, issue the time off award to Mr. Black as he was a valued member of the team and substantial contributor to the schedule? B, provide a letter of appreciation to Mr. Black's employer, acknowledging the outstanding support received by the company. C, do nothing. The A and AS contract requires a high level of performance, and any outstanding performance is expected and should not be recognized under any circumstance.
I think that the best option here is B, but the director should say in his letter that his employees are receiving a time off award. That might encourage the contractor to give his employee the day off to get the benefit that he deserves. He'd feel like a valued member of the team that way.
That probably would go far in reinforcing the team concept.
Exactly. Seems like a good way to promote team unity without breaking the rules.
It would reinforce the team concept, but it is not necessarily a good idea. The rules regarding military, civilian, and contractor employees, as well as those regarding awards and recognition, are quite different. Generally, the DoD policy does not allow for awards or recognition to an entity that is in a profit-making relationship with the government. Therefore, the government cannot issue awards to support contractors or their employees. There's an exception for extreme cases, but even then, the recognition can only be honorary. Simply put, the director cannot issue a time-off award to a contractor employee as it interferes with the contractor's relationship with its employee regarding work schedule and recognition. Further, the director could not provide anything above an honorary recognition.
So the director could issue a letter to Fred's company, but not to the employee, in appreciation of the exceptional support?
That would be appropriate. That way, the contractor could determine how best to reward or recognize its employee. B is the best choice. As a side note, the director should also ensure he coordinates the letter with the contracting officer before presenting to the company. In this next scene, a program manager is reviewing task descriptions for a support contract. He takes notice of a recently vacated position.
Yeah, hello, Steve. Rob Johnson here. Great. Yeah, thanks. Hey, listen, do you have a minute? Good. I was just reviewing the positions on your support contract that are being vacated, and I had a couple of things I wanted to talk about. Great. Yeah, you know, I always appreciate your willingness to consider our inputs. Now, I'm interested in the program support level 1 position, which was originally, I think, conceived as entry level. I just wanted to confirm that you had the same opinion of that slot. Uh-huh. All right, good. Listen, just give me a minute. All right. I'm back. Yeah. Listen, that position we were just talking about, I think I might have a great candidate to fill it. Yeah. My daughter just graduated with a degree in management, and I can personally vouch for her work ethic and dedication. She'd fit right in with our current office structure. Yeah. And just to clarify here, I'm not asking for special treatment. No. I'm just asking that she be looked at with the other candidates. I mean, I wouldn't even suggest this, if I wasn't moving on in a couple of months. Good. Well, that's good to know. Listen, I'll have her get her resume in right away for that particular position. And why don't we keep the review and selection completely independent of this office? To avoid any improper appearance. Right. Now, I'd still like to have my team review the resumes of the other folks, to ensure that we get the right fit for our office. And remember to remove the names. Yeah, I want to keep this process really, really clean. Okay. All right, super. Yeah. I'll talk to you later.
Certain programs have unique needs. What are your thoughts on the program manager's involvement in the support contractor employment process? A, the PM has the obligation to ensure that all employees are properly vetted. If continuity is disrupted by a bad employee fit, the consequences can be dire. B, the PM can wield influence into all aspects of the program. The PM can and should use the position to influence the contractor's hiring decisions. C, the PM can exercise program authority by ensuring that task descriptions are thorough and complete. This gives the contractor the detailed information it needs to adequately staff the positions with qualified personnel. The PM should not otherwise influence staffing decisions.
This is a tough one. The PM has responsibility to ensure that his program runs smoothly. Surely one of his concerns has to be personnel and the workplace dynamic. I can't say that I find it appropriate for the PM to recommend his daughter for employment, but I do see a benefit to the PM screening potential applicants, even if they are contractor employees. I would choose A.
You probably would not be alone with that choice. However, being in the majority does not mean you're correct.
I was afraid of that.
While the needs of the program are unique and workplace dynamic and personnel interactions are critical, the government really only has influence over military and civilian staffing. Use of contractor support does not invite the government to treat the contractor employees like civilian employees.
Well, it seems silly to contract for people and then not get to choose those people.
It may seem silly, but that's a key point. We're not contracting for people. With most support contracts, we're buying tasks or specific deliverables, not the specific people to complete the tasks. As such, the government's role is to prepare detailed and complete task descriptions with the minimal qualifications. Within these parameters, the contractor then fills those positions with qualified personnel.
But why leave that to the contractor when the government can find personnel at once?
That's the nature of the contractual relationship. If the contractor fails to provide qualified personnel in accordance with the contractor is required to take corrective action. If the personnel that the contractor provides fail to meet the obligations of the contractor must correct that as well. If the government were to make the personnel decisions, the contractor could make the case that failure to perform is really not its fault, since the government assumed at least some responsibility when it selected the personnel.
Could the contractor really do that?
Certainly. It also creates the appearance of a conflict of interest. Specifically, if a government employee influences a contractor's personnel decisions, this is a conflict, whether the influence is direct, for example, recommending someone, or indirect, such as reviewing candidate resumes with or without names. Both of these practices inappropriately shift the burden of contract performance to the government, which is paying for the contractor for that same performance. There really is no place for this in support contracts. The correct response is C. A contract employee's performance has recently declined dramatically. The employee, Jim, has missed scheduled deliverables, and the quality of his work has declined. Gail, a government employee, has requested time with the squadron commander to discuss Jim's conduct.
Excuse me, sir. Do you have a minute?
Sure, Gail, come on in.
I'd like to talk to you about some of the problems that we've been having with Jim, the contractor guy. Well, sir, I've noticed that Jim has missed several of his scheduled deliverables, and those things that he has provided on time have required a lot of rework. Others have noticed it too. And Jim has missed several meetings, and he comes in late and leaves early almost every day.
Has anyone talked to Jim about this to see what's going on?
Well, I know that he and Bob sometimes talk. Bob has suggested that Jim is having some trouble at home and may be separating from his wife. No one really knows for sure, but this has come on fairly quickly, and we're certainly very busy right now.
Understood. Well, first of all, I thank you for bringing this to my attention. Looks like I'm going to have to talk with Jim. Just please let the folks know that I'm taking care of it, and I appreciate all of their hard work.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Very well.
The commander should be concerned for the well-being of Jim and also for the esprit de corps. What is his appropriate course of action? A, the commander should counsel Jim and inform him that despite his recent troubles, his behavior must change or discipline will be required. The commander could also tell Jim about available employee assistance, reinforce the wingman culture. B, the commander should do nothing until the next CPAR is due. Since Jim is a contractor, there is nothing that the government can do regarding poor performance once a contractor is in place other than give a negative report on the CPAR. C, the commander should inform the contracting officer or CO representative that there are potential issues regarding the level of support on the contract that Jim supports. The commander should stress his belief that the contractor employee is dealing with some serious personal issues.
Well, if there's one thing I've learned in this exercise, it's that our relationship with support contractors is business and business only. The correct response is B. If the contractor is not aware of problems with its employees, it will when the negative report is received. The government should not interfere and should keep everything business.
This is a tough situation. Many of the rules are strict and appear to remove human nature from the day-to-day interactions of people. And the rules are designed to maintain business-only relationships. While that has to be the overarching approach, it is appropriate to address issues like these as well. In this case, the commander should discuss these concerns with the contracting officer or representative who can in turn address the issue with the contractor. The contractor may not be aware of the problem prior to the notice from the contracting officer, while the commander should not address the problem directly with the contract employee as he could with a civilian employee. He should inform the contracting officer of the problem. The contracting officer then can engage with the contractor.
Well, this isn't as simple as I thought it would be.
No, working with contract personnel presents its own set of challenges. The Air Force is aware that relationships with contracted personnel can lead to some difficult situations, but you're not alone. When in doubt, consult with the contracting officer and the base legal office. They can likely provide valuable contractual and ethics advice. You can also consult the Air Force Guide for the government contractor relationship found at the web address shown.